Today we have with us Alok, founder and CTO at Goodmeetings. Goodmeetings is an AI-driven platform that enables sales productivity by providing a platform to get more out of demos, remote meetings, and insights from it. This is the fourth stint for Alok as a founder CTO of a startup. Given his wealth of experience, Alok shares some deep and very critical insights on how he looks at application security as part of building any tech business. He has been candid enough to share his unplanned appointment with a ransomware attacker and how it opened his eyes and built-in practices for dealing with the application security problem. Among other things ranging from compliances and security needs as part of the SaaS ecosystem that he's building for his customers, he also talks about some of the challenges and biggest barriers for doing it right, ranging from process-related maturity and skills gap, and how partnering can help him address the problem better. Welcome to the Saastrana podcast, Alok. Pleasure to have you.
Nice meeting you, Venky. Pleasure to be here.
Can you tell a little bit about yourself, Alok, and also your company, Goodmeetings?
Yes. So I have been heading tech teams for a very long time. This is actually my fourth startup. Previously, I sold my previous startup called Reality Compass to Quicker. Then I was the CTO at Quicker Homes, where we also used to manage multiple properties like Common Floor. There was Grab House, and India Property, and so on. So coming from a real estate background, what I realized is, everything that we collect is so difficult to, and the data side is very difficult to collect when you have a operations heavy thing. So what we realized is AI and machine learning, particularly computer vision, can help in this. So we started analyzing CCTV videos, understanding how the construction can be made better. And that's when the pandemic happened. And we realized that everything has started moving to video. Video is the new order of the day. And, increasingly sales calls have been happening remotely. So we decided to, build this for video meetings. So that's how Goodmeetings came into existence. I jammed up with my co-founder, Srini, and we started in 2020 with a seed round with the participation of a lot of good names in the market, like there was Vijay Shekhar Sharma and Kunal Shah, some serial entrepreneurs, as well as Chirate Ventures is our main VC. Yeah.
Fantastic. So just at the beginning of COVID, I think people were embracing remote as a habit, not as an exception. And that's when you founded Goodmeetings for solving the remote sales problem.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
If you look at it, Venky, the entire sales process, even when I was in real estate, we used to have a 600-member sales team who used to go on the motorcycles, do the sales. It's very cumbersome, time intensive, and it really is not productive. You don't get the data key, what actually happened in that. However, when it comes to remote sales, it's a paradigm shift. You are actually monitoring how many calls an agent did. You are actually monitoring the quality of it, and even you're improving your product, the product and customer success. Everyone is getting those inputs. So suddenly, business starts taking a lot of momentum. Right. So that's why I feel remote sales is here to stay.
Fantastic. So you already had a little bit of tailwind heading your way when you started with remote. But now tell me a little bit. Remote sales as a category certainly exploded. Remote exploded generally post 2020, but remote sales as a category also exploded. But now with getting back to office, return to office, making a comeback. Is there any pivots or changes in your business? How are you handling this right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you look at it today, the macro environments have changed. you have companies doing layoffs, cost cutting. People are not willing to take a lot of risks, and obviously, the move to hybrid work is now a certainty, right? Everyone was confused a year back. What is the future of work? Now they're no longer confused.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. But the way, if you look at it, the cost of sales is still a factor. Money hasn't changed, and the way people travel hasn't changed. So there has been budget cuts across the board, including particularly the sales travel costs. Right? Let's say whatever can be done remotely, initial calls should be done remotely, and later you do it physically. Right? So we support this hybrid kind of sales motion, and that's where most of our clients do it as well. We are fortunate that we started targeting B2B SaaS clients in the US, where the entire demo process happens online, right? I mean, even if you go physically, you have to open up your laptop and give a demo because your product is inside your laptop, right? So still, so that's why I feel that events and education, although they have moved offline, sales will have this split of almost 50-50, or in some cases 80-20, where 80% is remote and 20% is physical.
I agree with you. I think even though there is return to office, especially for sales, I mean, it's not remote or physical. It's going to be remote and physical. And remote is certainly going to be an integral part of many things in the entire journey, from inquiry to closing of the sales, and then even beyond that for success and making the customer. So remote is certainly going to be a very integral part, independent of the back to office or 100% remote.
That's true.
Yeah. Great. I think it's been an excellent journey. So I think, which brings me, it's 2 years since you have started. What geography do you operate in? Are you, where are you getting, are you sticking close to the home base, or embracing the remote work culture? You're also remotely selling it all over the world.
That's true. So when we started building the AI layer on top of video meetings, we realized that we can't support all the languages to start with. So English was the choice of language. That's the business language that we use. So we started targeting English-speaking countries, including South Africa, North America, and even Australia. Right. So that's where most of our business is in. And since we are entrepreneurs, we had our home network in India, which still we support, and we have a lot of clients in India as well. Right. So these are the major geographies. And in terms of sales support, it is very difficult, to work across these time zones. So we have split ourselves physically. So my co-founder Srini, he puts up most of the time in the valley. I spend most of the time traveling, as well as some of the other GTM team members. Right. So that's how it has been so far. And yeah, the entire tech team is remote. We want to build the remote work culture. We do meet often, but it's not to work. It's more to
have fun.
It's more to interact, have fun, and gel between these people.
Have fun is an integral part of work too. So
yeah, absolutely.
Great. So fantastic. I mean, you come a long way within 2 years. So let me get into being a CTO. I'm going to ask you a question which is more closer to your heart. What does the tech stack look like in terms of Goodmeetings? You're solving a specific problem of enhancing the productivity of sales teams.
Yes.
With video being the anchor point around which you provide values. That's what I heard. So what does your tech stack look like? Is it SaaS? Where is it hosted? APIs that you integrate? Any details you can provide will be great.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. In fact, that's all I do day in and day out. So just a bit about the product, 2 or 3 lines, then I can get into the tech, because then the understanding will be complete. So typically in a meeting, like let's say a video call of Teams or Google Meets or Zoom, we have something called a bot, which is a note taker, which joins in the call remotely, and it transcribes in real time all the meeting transcripts, and also it records the call, right? So that gives us enough data to start processing in parallel on AWS and GCP. We use both these clouds. So each of these clouds have their own strengths. So that's why we chose to be multi-cloud from day one, right? And the APIs are hosted on Docker Kubernetes, which is a hosted service from GCP called Google Cloud Run, right? So Cloud Run helps us in scaling up because they kind of take care of the entire DevOps side of things, right? And we don't have to deal with the headache of going up and down whenever traffics fluctuate. Earlier, we used to do it manually through a DevOps team, so that has actually changed a lot of how we work on a day-to-day basis. On the AWS side, what we do is we launch instances, particularly Spot instances, to and Graviton instances. These are ARM instances which are very low cost. So
what is it called?
Graviton are these are basically ARM processors based instances which are typically low cost. You have them in all the clouds now, but in AWS it's called Graviton. So as soon as a meeting starts, our scheduler fires up and creates a new instance in there and joins the meeting. After the meeting is recorded, it ends the instance and terminates it, right? So the meeting duration is the duration for which the instances run. So it's very, very optimized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to take it from a favorite part of question that you like to answer to a favorite part of the questions I would like to hear.
Yes.
Now, you have this tech stack, you have these applications. I'm assuming you also integrate with many third-party applications and APIs as part of, besides the public clouds that you mentioned. What is it you do to protect these APIs, your own, and also the vendors and the partners you integrate with? Are you doing something there, or just pray?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because a lot of people I meet, they say that, hey, we are on the cloud, so we are secure. So definitely that's not the case. It's like buying a lock and saying that, okay, my door is locked now. So yeah,
it's not even this. Even for applications, the lock is your responsibility. I mean, cloud is basically giving a compute instance. Everybody talks about shared responsibility, right? So your application is your responsibility, whether you build it yourself or stack up and integrate and aggregate other components. But it's your responsibility, and hence protection of it is also your responsibility. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you look at it, there is a term in the military that I am very fond of. It's called situational awareness, and it's used in cybersecurity as well. In fact, if you look at Israeli defense forces, they produce the highest number of cybersecurity engineers.
Correct.
The reason for that, once there is a threat, one is you have to be very proactive in addressing it, and second is once you have known about it, you should have a real-time dashboard where you can monitor it. Right. So both of these are critical to have for any organization, I would say. I come from a lot of, the heartburn where I have seen applications getting hacked due to poor security. Most of the time, it's the human that is to be blamed. The man who has the key has been lax with it. So there was one instance where, one of our keys, the cloud key, was exposed in a public GitHub repo, right? And within 15 minutes of it being exposed and we coming to learn about it, there was a hacker, a malicious attacker, who basically launched some 900 instances, all GPU instances, with termination protection. So that we can't immediately get rid of them, and to mine Bitcoin, right? So essentially, we were lucky that they didn't touch most of our data. I would say that was the pray part that you talked about. Then we were really praying. But then post that, we decided that we although we are small, we can't be lax about security. At that time, you'd be surprised, we didn't even have a single person use it apart from us, right? So it was a big surprise for us. So yeah, post that, we started taking this into consideration, that the human is the most important element who has to be ensured that. So we have multi-factor authentication for all the people we regularly audit, who are the people who should have access, people who have left the organization. So there is a monthly audit for that, which I personally oversee. And apart from this important piece, there is obviously the tools, the third parties, what we integrate with. So we use a data observability platform, which is called Logic. That is actually to help us understand which are the API traffic that is going up and down. So suddenly we can get a spike in the traffic from there. In addition to that, we are in the process of implementing a web application firewall. So I mean, like AppTrana. So we are exploring how to integrate a web which actually exploit the common exploits, which are known CVEs, that at least we can get protected from. So in there, I would like to stress that this itself is not enough. We need to have continuous monitoring of these dashboards, these third-party tools, right? Because just having it in a suitcase locked is not going to protect you.
Correct.
So you need to have someone who is actually looking into it and proactively monitoring it. So that's where the security monitoring comes into play. So right now we are doing it in-house, and we are looking at how we can tie up with platforms which can help us do that. Right? Because that, I feel, is the most important part of security of your application.
Right, and I think it's this is like the 7th or 8th edition of the Saastrana CTOs and CEOs I talked with, and everybody have their own little story to tell. And one thing common across, even though the nature of attack is different, but everybody gets succumbs to ransomware, right? And it's Bitcoin or something that has to be paid, and then people learn from that. Did that change it completely? Well, can it throw a little bit light of after you had this incident? Did it bring about a complete change into the way you look at security?
Yes, it did. It was like a wake-up call. I mean, although you hear about security from various other people, once you do it, get to experience it yourself, it can't be described. Like it feels as if your house has been robbed, right? It's a very bad feeling, and I don't want anyone.
And it's also an ethical dilemma. I mean, you have to run your business, and morally and ethically, you don't want to be held ransomware under any circumstance. Yes. But the cost of paying that is going to be a lot lesser than getting the business back up, and that is what the organized crime in the hacking community latches onto.
Yeah. So I mean, as a best practice, what we do is an actual hackathon. This is a thing which I had initiated. Okay. Where we have a lot of engineers in our team who are specialized in application automation, right? Because we do automate for our meetings and we join their squads. So how can we write automated scripts to get into Goodmeetings? That is something that we do as a task, right? Rather than leave it to chance. So once you have this, it's like a fire drill. Before you have an actual fire come in, you should run your own fire drill. So that I would encourage everyone to do. But before you have the fire drill, you should make sure you have the fire hoses and the safety systems in place, or else you'll burn your own building. So good analogy. I think good. I think and invariably also you gave the analogy of the lock, right? And the keys. The keys for accessing access controls and authorization are basically the keys for unlocking it. But as you rightly said, humans are the probably the most process lax. So you have to have a strong process in place. But assume that the keys gets into the wrong hands. Assume that the lock will get broken and you get entry. You still need to build defense in depth, right? What is normal behavior? What is abnormal behavior? And that is where the more deeper monitoring and protection comes into place, I believe. Yes, absolutely. I think you're right, Venky, because having this deeper logs is absolutely critical for any organization who is particularly in today's environment. I mean, although we don't see it on a day-to-day basis, but they're out there and they're looking for you to get some ransomware. So it's very important to protect your base, and to do that, you have to be willing to spend a good amount of budget as well. But it is well warranted, and it is part of, even if you don't have a CISO, or you don't have that role, the CTO has to play that role, right? And even though you are not that big yet, right?
Yeah.
And because once you are big, anyways, you will have it. You will have.
Yeah. Eventually, you'll have a CISO specialized role, right? And until that point of time, it is CTOs playing that role, and that's when partnerships with specialist players makes a lot of sense, as you alluded to. Now, in your customer journey, in your customer's buyer behavior of subscribing to Goodmeetings, do they ask about application security? And if yes, at what point in their journey, or is there a conversation that happens in your sales cycle?
Yes. Yeah, that is a very interesting point to bring about, Venky. I mean, it's not just your security, it's your sales that depends on it now. Particularly if you are into B2B SaaS, where you are hosting critical customer data. I mean, let's say in the medical field, anyways, you are HIPAA or certified, or those kind of certifications, but those are just meant to protect some part of your thing. What we have seen is a pushback once the number of seats. I mean, when I say the seats, we sell it on a per agent per month basis. So when the number of agents are more than 20, particularly mid-sized to larger firms, the security audit is compulsory. There is a VAPT report that is at the minimum I have seen being asked by even non-technical people, right? The IT teams. Once it comes to the IT teams, it helps if you have a certifying body like SOC 2 or ISO 27001. One of these certifications, it really helps get your case being pushed further for approval, or else you will be stuck in an endless quagmire of why your application is not secure, this particular thing doesn't work, and you'll end up losing a client, which is definitely not.
But the beauty about this, and again, I want to ask you this, because it is one application that is deployed to different. I mean, at the end of the day, the application is a Goodmeetings application, which is used maybe in a single tenant or a multi-tenant. You are probably 100% multi-tenant, right?
We have an optional single tenant for larger customers.
Optional. Yeah, but any of these customers asking it, you just have to give them the same report, or do you have to give them a separate report for their white label versions, or any light you can throw, or you just show them that this is my application and here's the last audit report that we have?
Yeah, so that's again comes to an individual preference, I would say. In the initial stages, what we did is we had a VAPT report, which we even circulated with the sales team, that if so that they can get faster approvals. However, we realized that there are deeper needs of application security that people have in mind. They have something very secure. They have gone through their audits. They don't want any third parties, because for them we are a third party and we are not secure. That gives them nightmares. So we are looking to.
You're a third party and they have subscribed to your service, and once they subscribe to the service, that asset, even though it is hosted by you, becomes their asset, because it is their part of the application ecosystem with one service provided by you. Yeah.
And if I can shed more light on how important it is, because we are talking about sales meetings, they discuss contracts which are sometimes worth thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, and I mean, going up the ladder, millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So, and if it is a publicly listed company, then God help you, because these will, there will be analysts and whatnot looking for that data. So it's a very critical data. So, customer meetings. So we are under heavy scrutiny by our customers when it comes to security.
Yeah.
So
there are nuances based on who your customer is. Maybe there could be just regional nuances based on where they are based in. Do you have any regional specific audit nuances that you have? based on where the customer is located that you have come across?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is the culture. I mean, I would say particularly Indian customers have least botheration with security requirements, unfortunately. However, we have been targeting North American customers, and there it is kind of an hygiene that we have to maintain. So yes, there are different based on the geographies that you target, and even within the geographies, you look at the vertical. Let's say you're targeting people who are not dealing with critical data in their own company, right? They're less likely to ask you for something related to security. However, today with all the privacy rules getting tighter, people are concerned about the security of their data. It's kind of related. So it is imperative that you need to have a partner like particularly like let's say AppTrana to have these kind of rules in place so that you can immediately generate a report based on their own traffic, right? You can filter it down to that.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, there are customer specific nuances, regional nuances, vertical specific nuances. But fundamentally, all of them comes down to, do you as a SaaS vendor have the security hygiene in place that they can place their trust on you? And hence it becomes a sales enabler for you as well to demonstrate that you have thought through it and you're willing to work through them through their compliance requirement.
Yes. It becomes not just a headache for the sales team that, because of your laxative approach to security, we are not getting deals, or it is more like a hygiene that if you don't maintain, then no one wants to do business with you, right? So I would suggest everyone to look at this aspect of your business very carefully.
You touched on this list of compliance requirements. You mentioned SOC 2, you mentioned ISO 27001, you mentioned VAPT, audit report that your customer asks. Is there a checklist of all the compliance requirements that you have, or these are the major ones that you already touched upon?
Yeah, I mean, apart from these, they tend to be customer specific. Not all the customers would want it, but these are like, and if you have by the way, if you have SOC 2 type 1 or type 2, these are considered the gold standard, at least in our industry, B2B SaaS. Okay. So because they to get those certifications, you need to have a checklist which is pretty long, and it entails you to have a continuous audit and to have tools like AppTrana in place. So that you monitor your assets, and therefore I would say the checklist is something that you can never predict. And if you are able to predict a checklist, then obviously you haven't seen the kind of new attacks that surface every time, right? So it's better not to get into it. That's not your core competence. You can partner with someone who has been in this space and who keeps a track of those security updates. That's the reason initially antiviruses started booming.
Correct.
You remember the days. And for some reason, Microsoft didn't provide it for a very long time, right? And I couldn't understand it back then. Why they can't make it secure? And why? So now being in this space for so long, I can completely appreciate the reason they didn't do it.
Yeah, that's it. They eventually provided it, but they provided it as a basic adoption increase. But you still need specialized antivirus-focused companies to provide the best in breed. Very similar to what is happening now, the public infrastructure providers also provide some elements of application security as a check mark. And I had to thank them for it because they accelerate the adoption of application security enablement. But the moment it becomes serious enough, then specialized players like us will have a demand to cater to that need.
That is for sure. Because, I think that analogy you drew is bang on. The cloud providers of today are like the OSs of yesterday.
Yeah. Great. So how frequently do you scan your applications and API? You said you do a hackathon, you do a fire drill. Of course, you cannot do that. That's more of being ready, having your team ready in case of an incident. But as a hygiene in terms of your applications, your APIs that you push out, how frequently do you do an assessment?
Yeah. So as I said, the logins and everything we assess monthly, which is checking if multi-factor authentication is enabled, particularly for people who are in the DevOps team,
Mhm.
have access to it.
Okay.
The second part is monitoring of all the requests, HTTP requests, and looking at the logs for that. So that is not a task that I would say can be done on a periodic basis. It should be done real time, every day, every minute, and
Okay.
therefore we are looking at a solution which can help us do that. Like there we implement a web application firewall,
Yeah.
which does that.
Great. So, any golden nuggets of wisdom that you want to give to new founders, new CTOs of SaaS companies? Any pitfalls you should avoid? What are some of the groundworks you think founders should lay down if you have the benefit of going back in time? Uh, Anything that you can throw that others can learn from?
Yeah, if I can put down to a few points to start with. When you start out as a new company, as a new CTO, your focus will be to build something of value, right?
Mhm.
It will be mostly to make sure that the features are the best in the market. More, you beat your competitors.
Mhm.
However, security gets a backseat, and
Mhm.
that is the mistake we had made. And I
Mhm.
would say, in order to not have that, you should be using some kind of application firewall from day one. It doesn't cost a lot of money or resources, but it helps you gain the credibility of being a larger. It makes you project yourself as much larger than you really are, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it kind of helps your cause in the sales process. It makes you look as uh, if you look at like a Maslow's law of hierarchy, there's food, which is revenue, and
Yeah.
security sometimes comes as the actual self-actualization layer. But
Yeah.
I just want to make the small correction that you should start with that, right?
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
start with that, suddenly your self-actualization doesn't become your security layer; it
Yeah.
becomes something more than that. So yeah, that's the only thing I would advise. I mean, you can when you are aware of it, then obviously you will implement what is
Correct.
possible at your
Correct.
own stage, right? Let's say when you are starting out as a seed stage company, you will have, let's say, maybe $1 million to $10 million in funding. Most of it will be spent in hiring, right? So if you don't have that knowledge in house, at least some teammates you can hire who have that knowledge or who have done some kind of, let's say, even a PCI certification in their past organizations,
Mhm. Mhm.
who can that is the basic minimum, I would say. But if even that is not available from day one, you should start with looking for a partner who can help
Mhm.
you with that.
Fantastic. On that note, I'm actually having tears of joy hearing to some of the things you said about getting people to look at security from day zero. And I hope every startup takes that piece of advice. Not just do they remain secure, but it's also the market is expanding for people like us. So there is a little bit of vested interest given what we do, but certainly that's why we are here. I mean, it's a cause that we can make the world a better place by securing them. And if more people think like you do after having those wounds that you can display and don't want them repeated again, then the market will grow for this, and the business will be good for cybersecurity as well. Uh,
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you. Yeah.
I want to add a few more points to the last, before we end it. I mean, as we are entering 2023, the entire landscape around cybersecurity and crypto has just boomed. I mean, now we have crypto kiddies, script kiddies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone and everyone is trying to get money and get rich quick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you are the target. So you need to make sure that you have the right defenses, and it's becoming more important than ever. If you are doing this 10 years back, I wouldn't have said this because the internet was not so widespread.
Yeah.
Now everyone can do it from their phones for that matter. So please,
Correct.
please
Yeah,
be.
I mean, bringing down a system is no big deal. I mean, it's just, and then for smaller organization which has not thought of scale, the amount of compute power that you need to hire a few $100, and you can you can bring down a system, right? And that's where the script kiddies are not really any special talent. Hacking doesn't require any special talent. It is just a wrong use of their already low talent in a wrong way, right? And really professional hackers probably do the advanced attacks, but they can be put to better use. And ransomware is certainly the industry as a whole should come together and say that we will not succumb to ransomware. We will not pay a ransom, even if it means going down, but we will take all the steps needed to protect ourselves, but will not succumb to ransom. That is probably also a change that needs to happen. I mean, in the olden days, when you used to have those bribes being paid or a physical right, and eventually it's an ethical call you need to take, where, of course, in the short term, your life is at risk and people cannot make those ethical calls. But eventually, as we progress and the law and the vendors and the ability to deal with it gets better, we have to enable people and businesses to take those calls and say no to ransomware no matter what. And that's probably the best way to kill that business too.
Yeah, I think this is a good tagline. Say no to ransomware.
Say no to ransomware, yeah. Right. So great. On that note, thanks a lot, Alok. Really pleasure connecting and talking with you. And wish you all the best in your endeavors. And hopefully we can partner with apptrana as well.
Same here. Glad to talk to you as always, Venky.
And vice versa. Maybe we will have to partner with you guys for enabling our sales teams. Let's.
Of course. Sure.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.